40.
Say 39.
Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28. 27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.
2.
1.
Sí, señor and señorito, it is time for the mouthwash. Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty, fresh take on politics. And yes, we have another possible no-show guest tonight. Emergency came up, and he's going to try to get on at 9:30. But we do have a backup plan here. We actually have a backup plan, and I see that Slick Witty's in the house here. He's in the audience. So as usual, if you're in the audience watching the show on either YouTube or Facebook, yeah, we're back on YouTube. They let us back on. Out of the jail, you can ask a question. And if it's a good one, hey, maybe it's a bad one. I might even put it out there. But we do have Mark Small. He's going to come on here in a second. We're going to talk about his show. And heck, he might just stick around. I backstage, him and Brad were talking about Colt stadiums and who should pay for it and why should you pay for it and all that. But we got a lot to talk about tonight other than that. And hopefully our guest, if he comes on at 9:30, I think you'll be impressed with that guest. We do appreciate you for tuning in tonight. It's Tuesday. It's been one of those days for me today, but I'm glad to be on the show. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Mark Small here, and we're not having small talk tonight, but he's got an announcement tonight. So I'm going to bring on Mark here. Let's see. Let's get you on the big screen. Here, center yourself up there a little better, Mark. How about that? I switched you over. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I put you on the big time here since you get to come on live tonight.
It's been
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. Sean, how are you?
I'm good. It's we usually play small talk, and lately you haven't been ruffling as many feathers. You've been pretty animated on a few topics, but I've seen a lot of more heads nodding this time. I don't know what
Something's wrong.
If you're just making sense now, or they're finally understanding you, or what's the deal?
I think it was probably I was taken over by a poltergeist or something, but here's the thing. We're going to be covering a lot of different topics at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays, and that will be 2 hours before Mouthwash, so people can. It's at 7 p.m. Adam, and then we will have guests. We're going to cover places around the state and the country. We will have a weather report. Well, don't do that. My cats are going crazy right now because they're cats. But there was like a June bug or something in September that flew into the living room, and so they were going bananas looking for it. And they still haven't found it. But we'll be doing things that are a little different. I wanted to handle a couple of topics, and one thing that Brad mentioned before we went on had to do with subsidies of sports franchises. And the other thing, of course, I really have a great interest in TIFs. And going to what Brad was saying, anybody that has done a peer-reviewed study of subsidies in sports has come to the same, the studies have come to the same conclusion. The only people that benefit from that are the owners. And that's because the owners are normally very cold-blooded, when they sat back the first time. I think the NFL really was big when they realized how much money people were shelling out when they put the Super Bowl on someplace. They started trying to figure out ways to get all that money back because they viewed that as theirs. They never considered, at first, they didn't subsidize ballparks or stadia. That was considered to be something that an owner did. In the same way, I mean, if the owner did it, people would come, they'd make money, you know. But it got worse. When you've got a business, and I still haven't figured out how the hell they do this, they will be offered land, good real estate downtown, and money to build it. It's like, hey,
and
get
taxes off. Yeah. So Mark, that's a great example of maybe one of the topics you'll cover. Now, this is Civil Discourse Now. Is that right? The name of it?
Civil Discourse Now. That's correct.
And you did a little bit. You've been doing that show for quite a bit. This is sort of a relaunch of that at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. That'll be good. One day we may have a whole Chateau de Mars Hill studio lineup. We just need to fill in about 22 more hours of it, and we can go around the clock on Tuesday.
That's a good point. That's a good point. The other thing is, and a lot of people don't talk about these. I have the last couple of weeks, but it has to do with good old tips. And if I can use this as an example to chart this out, let's say that if you want to know what a TIF is, let's say that you've got a part of the city that nobody's going to develop unless they're given money. And so what they do then is, in California, what they decided was, let's say this whole area is impacted, but they wanted to try to get people to put money in there who otherwise wouldn't. Okay, so you got that. They call that a footprint. And so Indiana was late to the game on TIFs, but we enacted a TIF statute in '75, and nobody picked up on how much money they could benefit in basically a slush fund by having TIFs, because all they have to do is build a dream of what's going to go in here. And the notion is that they then will, the city or whatever the governmental entity is, will benefit from the business that goes on here. Makes good sense, right? Except this was meant for impacted poverty areas that otherwise wouldn't have development. And 1/6 of the land, yeah, it's for blighted areas, but they dropped that language, Slick. It's now areas that also need redevelopment. And so what they do is they make this footprint, and the first things that have to get paid back are the bonds that they've issued for the TIF. And then what they do is build stuff with no possible negative side to the developers, because in a free market economy, failure is a possibility that makes everybody supposedly work their butts off to make sure something succeeds. They already got the money. And the bigger they dream of building something big, the more money's let out. And then they move on. When people say, well, they wouldn't want it to fail. No, they're builders. They're contractors. They don't give a damn about whether
they want to get their money and go. It's sort of like a $600 million hotel. We've bypassed the TIF, and they're just going to finance that one. Okay, so Mark, I got some questions here in the comments. Where is this going to be broadcasted? Is it going to be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube? What do you?
Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We were recognized for doing a live stream. The rules on that have a little bit changed. So those are the two big ones right now, Facebook and YouTube. We'll be playing a replay over on Twitter, and then we're going to go on to a couple of the platforms, but I want to make sure that we've got everything working on the first couple, and then we'll have call-ins.
And then people find that at Civil Discourse Now. Is that your simple?
My Twitter handle is at MarkSmall1973.
Okay, yeah.
And then Civil Discourse Now is on the YouTube and on Facebook.
Okay, so that's where they can find it. All right, well, there's two good examples of what you're going to find there. And, you're starting to sound more like a Republican every day. I'm proud of you.
Well, here's the thing, John, and I had a couple of people say, well, tell me how you're a Republican. The Republican Party
couple?
was the Republican Party was always the progressive party, was pro civil rights at its inception, pro environment in the 1890s. Teddy Roosevelt came in, started the National Park Service. Also, he was heavy about the environment. Then you look at civil rights by the 1950s, a greater percentage of Republicans in Congress voted for civil rights legislation than Democrats did. Then you get into the 1964 election, and Goldwater lost to Johnson by a landslide, but there were people in the Republican Party who saw that for the first time since the Civil War, Goldwater pulled off of electors' votes from what had always been called the Solid South. And so they started pitching more to people on, especially on trying to go for segregation. And I think it was Lee Atwater said, don't say you want to discriminate or have separate places for the races. Just say you oppose busing, and everybody will know it's a euphemism. And so that was the Southern strategy. And by the time you hit 2006 here, people, notably Jim Bopp Jr. from Terre Haute, redrafted the Articles of Incorporation and the bylaws. I still have never received a copy of the bylaws, and
I'm working on that for you. I'll see if I can find some for you.
Well, and I'm elected precinct committee person up here in Washington Township, and nobody gave those to me. And on women's rights and women's reproductive rights, the Supreme Court, 5 justices that voted for Roe versus Wade were appointees or nominated by Republican presidents. So those are all things that people presume as being anathema to Republicans today. They're actually at the very start of it. The last thing is when you look at what they're doing with TIFs, it's an example of people did not adequately plan for municipal finance and taxation. If I talk to you about sales tax, income tax, whatever, we all know you take whatever it is that they're taxing and multiply by a percentage. TIFs, they say, well, we're not going to raise your taxes. You don't have to pay tax money for this.
But we're going to reassess you.
the reassessment, but also eventually TIFs die. And that's why California was in trouble financially because of Proposition 13, but also because of TIFs. So that's something I'd like to get people to come on and talk about, because people don't understand it. And my whole thing about the party system in Marion County is there's only one party, and it's the Green Party.
It's the Green Party. Yes, I know.
All
right, Mark. I'm gonna have to get you going here. Looks like I got a full group back there. So we're gonna say thanks for coming on. And
okay, but I just want to add one last thing.
You already had your last thing. What are you talking about?
No, so we're gonna discuss topics on there that haven't really been explored very much, like science and constitutional history. And so those are 2 topics we'll be talking heavily about. Remember, it's Civil Discourse Now, 7 p.m. on
How long
Tuesday.
You're just going to get on and go until you don't go, or is it a half hour, hour? What is it?
It's a half hour.
Okay. Okay.
And we'll be posting our telephone number on there, and we'll be.
Are you taking call-ins?
Huh?
Try to take call-ins. I would try to do call-ins here, but we have the voter. We have the audience here. That's your call-in. If you can get on the show by posting something that'll get my attention, then we'll put you on there. All right, Mark. Thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll look forward to Small Talk next week. We have Pingnam Shi coming on. We're going to talk about education, and the week after that we have John Rust. Guess what, Mark? He's not being allowed on the ballot because he didn't vote in his 2 primaries, and he's suing.
That was the Mark Small rule that they instituted.
So get ready. We'll expect a very good Small Talk out of you for that. So, Mark, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, John. I'm trying to get the Live Long and Prosper thing.
I can't do it either. Can't even get there. It is. Oh yeah. All right.
You guys take care. Talk to you later.
All right. Okay, so let me bring on some people. We're going to bring on the magnificent Lucy first here. Let's get let's do it this way. Let's do Lucy out here. Okay, there you go, Lucy. Lucy, how you doing? we're killing some time a little bit there, hoping our guest comes on at 9:30. But if he doesn't, we got a treat for you tonight. We got a little investigative reporting I've been doing, and I'm sure it's going to be good fodder for the panel. So what's up with you, Lucy? What's up with you tonight?
Well, interesting thing that most people don't know about me is that I had a television show when I was a teenager, and my best friend at the time was the producer. It was called Trends, Triumphs, and Tribulations. So what's new with me this week is I was talking over with my husband. I did a quick search on Google, and oh my gosh, there were a few videos of me posted when I was 16, 17 years old. And
Really?
I
Did you say
cannot
that was
believe it.
something?
Yeah, it was called
Trains, tramps, and what?
Yeah, that's it. Trains and Tramps. No, it's called Trends, Triumphs, and Tribulations.
Oh, I
And it
thought
was
you
like
said-
Wayne's World, back in the 80s, because of the monopoly that Comcast had, as well as other cable companies. They were
Well,
required to give access.
Well, we
to
want
the
to see
airwaves.
that. You need to send that to me. I want to do
I
some
will.
clips on it. You send it to me, and
I will.
I'll do a little
It's
editing magic on that thing.
it's hilarious. It is so 1980s. I looked at my hairstyle and I went, "Oh my God, I was living the movie Pretty in Pink." And just
You
like
didn't
Molly
have big hair?
Ringwald.
Did you have the big 80s hair? Big
Um,
hair?
well, yeah, sometimes. But I was just like shocked because like the whole movie Pretty in Pink, where Molly Ringwald makes her own prom dresses and stuff, I totally did that. Totally.
So we would have, we got small on at 7, so we got 8 to 9 to fill up here. So hey, we could bring back Trains and Tramps and whatever you called it, but it's I think it'd be a great hit. You'd have to still stay on our show though, because we can't afford to lose you. I don't know how we would replace you. So I'm going to bring on the famous Brad Sawinski. Used to play for the White Sox, maybe.
No, I love them, but
Oh, he loves the
yes,
White Sox.
actually, my little league team was the Cubs. I had a hard time, getting along with that. So
I don't know what ours was. I think it was Shopper's Charge. I don't know if anybody ever remembers that. That's how old I am. Shopper's Charge is no longer with us. It's like, so that was my team. So Little League, you played the Little League Cubs?
Oh yeah. Then high school baseball, we went to state. My senior year, we got beat so badly that I think we still have the state record for like the worst.
You still have bruises from it.
Like it was, like getting there was great, and and everything. It was just, that did not turn out well for us.
Going to state though, that's big time.
Oh yeah, I got to play on Victory Field. I took a little chunk of the turf out with my cleats, put it in my back pocket, still have it. So
it's a field of dreams. Actually, you can buy whiskey made out of the corn that was in the Field of Dreams.
Seriously?
Who knew that? I actually drank some.
Like I know they sell dirt, but like they sell
From
like
there?
dirt.
No,
from, like,
seriously,
the and stuff,
you can
but,
buy.
like,
It's called Field. It's Fields. I don't know what. There's a name up for it, but I know a guy that got it for his birthday, and he was sharing it. I'm like, yeah, it was a little hot. I thought it tasted hot.
Big news about the White Sox. They have a special this weekend. There are dollar tickets and free parking for one game this weekend. Which
really, you rolling up there? You going?
Well, I can't go this weekend, but like it's prime concert season right now. I'm right in between like Mo and Fish, and then it's just gonna keep getting worse.
You young kids, I don't know what you just said there, but I thought you were gonna go fishing somewhere. I like, okay, it's a concert now. I don't know what this new language you have is.
They're the hippie jam band. It's
yeah, I knew it. I know who the Fish is. I don't know who Mo is, so I'm not gonna even pretend to know that. So, well, hey, so good luck with your weekend. You got concerts and ball games and all that. I'm going to bring on the famous Charles Bookwalter now, and he's filling in again for us. He's like our go-to guy now all of a sudden. Charles, what's happening tonight?
How are you this evening? I just got back from a meeting up in White County on the Madam Carroll, where we had a carbon sequestration in opposition of meeting. A lot of people showed up. There are probably 75 people there, 50 to 75 people.
Did you take your own carbon? Was it BYOC, bring your own carbon?
Well, I mean, if you're walking, then you're taking carbon with you.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. So White County, that's like Monticello and stuff, right?
That's right. Yep. And the Madam Carroll sits on the lake there, Lake Freeman.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's where that's where all my people are buried up there at Riverview Cemetery, Horseshoe Bend. my uncle used to own that. He was in the House of Representatives for 36 years. I think the Slinker building's still right there on Main Street. He was an attorney
Is
up
that
there.
right? Who is that? How are they related to you?
That
John?
would be my grandma's brother. So she was the youngest out of 6, had 5 brothers. So there you go, Lucy. There's something for you. But he was in the House. He was in the House of Representatives for Monticello, White County for 36 years, and he was actually started when Prohibition was over. So back when Prohibition was over, they gave the House the beer, to oversight the beer, and the Senate they had the alcohol. So in my uncle's will, there was like all these beer stocks. I'm like, it's good to see corruption alive and well, even back in the day.
Wow.
Because I'm sure he didn't pay none of them for him. But
Wow.
I do remember him as when I was a kid, because he died probably 72 or 4 somewhere in there. But anyway, that's just
When you say U.S. House, you're talking about the U.S. House.
No, I'm talking about Indiana House.
Indiana
House.
Assembly,
Indiana
okay.
House. Yeah. And then he was 4 years in the Senate, and he didn't retire. He lost. He lost in '68, I think, or something.
Someone primaried him. Well,
Yeah,
back then, they didn't have the 2 primary
he was,
rule, and they didn't have the 1 primary rule either
No.
back then.
No, and there's actually, he wrote some, I think he died in '76. I think he wrote, I'm trying to find these. So Brad, you're a librarian guy.
Yeah, man, give me a task. I got
Glenn Slinker, Memoirs of Glenn Slinker, written in 1975. I found them, but I can't find them. I can't find it. So where do you find books like that?
I got a gal at the library.
You got a source.
Her name is Terry. Well, no, like Terry's our main historian at the library. I'm pretty sure if I give her
all right, Memoirs of Glenn Slinker. I think it was 1975. I would love to get those, but he was an interesting character. Reading his will, and he was a lawyer and all that. But anyway, Charles, that's it's good. So give us the latest thing on carbon. What's the deal with the carbon? And you got people that are mad about carbon.
What's going on right now in the 4th district? So this includes Newton and Benton County, White County, and Warren County. Both BP and another company. I can't believe it's slipping my mind right now. But BP has a facility up in Whiting, up in like Lake County. And because of specific House bills in the Indiana General Assembly 1209, and then actually our Representative Jim Baird was a sponsor of House Bill 4824. It hasn't been voted on yet, but that is called the Carbon Sequestration Collaboration Act. What's happening is there's an idea that CO2 is very harmful to us, and that we need to pump it 3,000 feet underground to protect ourselves from the harmful effects of CO2. Like, for example, that the planet has warmed 1 degree in the last 170 years. So it's a number of acts that have happened, like the Air Quality Act has helped turn into this. But it's turned into, and I can't remember the number, but it's 2.3 trillion or something that has gone to or needs to go to things like exploring ideas like carbon sequestration, exploring ideas of how to pull carbon out of the air or take it from your manufacturing facility and just pump it straight into the ground so it doesn't go into the air. And Indiana is ripe for that, apparently due to our rock formations and whatnot. Frankly, I think Indiana is susceptible to it because they were able to come in, sweep in quickly, get solar fields in locations, and get wind turbines up there in the 4th district. And so they just saw it as an opportunity that people are asleep here, or that they've got friendly commissioners, people that have stock in the beer company and the spirits company or whatever. And so right now they're trying to pass it, get in planning committees and through commissioner meetings. And there's a lot of people upset about this. And so this is my 3rd meeting where there have been close to 100 people. One of them up in Jasper County, there were 150 people there. It was the most hostile meeting I've ever seen against.
Hold on, Brad. I think he's never been to a Hamilton County School Board meeting. I don't think he's been to one of those.
That sounds pretty intense, though.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't want to sell your meeting short, but I'm just saying. But
Hey,
I got a
if
question for you. So if Coca-Cola, is it gonna not have carbonation in it anymore? Is that part of the deal?
No, what they will, but what they will do is they will buy carbon credits from Africa, and that will offset their emissions. So none of this does anything to go zero. When they say zero, they only mean America, but they're really, it's not going to happen. So these corporations are still just going to buy these tax credits that are worth a fortune. It's just a money scheme. It's a scam, you guys. It's a scam.
No,
it's a gold mine for these governments to make a killing off carbon taxation.
All right, I'm going to put Lucy out here, and because I know this is
Lucy,
right. Lucy, please say it first before you do anything. Say your line. Say your tagline.
taxation is theft.
Yes, we have.
Got it in. Got it in.
Not a shirt yet.
So Charles, thank you for coming on. I agree with like 99% of what you say, and I really appreciate you going to these meetings. I've been to them too, and I'm quite frankly shocked that there's no tarring, feathering, and that folks aren't hanging from the light poles by the time it's done, because those local politicians are definitely selling people out. You know what this really reminds me of, and I'm going to say his name, Donald Trump. In New York City, they have air rights. So if you only take your building up 20 stories, but you could have taken it up 30, you can buy the rights of somebody else that didn't take it to the maximum to make your building bigger. And that's one of the ways that Donald Trump worked.
That's the dumbest rule. Just why is that a thing?
Because you can sell air. You are literally selling air and access.
It's the same thing. It's money. It's money. It's just a scheme to make money.
No,
it's called
okay. Are we not all collectively upset by that? Like that?
No, I think I think
making money.
Selling of it. But you see, what's brilliant about that is you need no talent, you need no means of production, right? You don't have to actually do anything, but you can extract money out of the system because of your influence. But one of the things that I think is interesting, what made you, everything you said, Charles, really made me think about was, you've got these carbon tax credits. You literally you're not doing anything. You're literally just giving money to politicians for their slush fund. That's all this is, just like those air rights things. But a lot of people don't see the broader implications and how these kinds of things can be put into other situations. I'm going to give you an example. Smart cities, Lahaina, the Tenerife Islands, Vancouver, all these places that they're turning into smart cities, Kelowna in British Columbia near Vancouver, all these places have literally burned so that they can rebuild them as smart cities. And, us common folks that are going to end up trapped in these open air prisons are going to only be given a certain number of days to leave. And so the wealthier citizens that are in there will be able to buy your days out of the prison. And so just like people are buying these tax credits, people are going to be able to buy travel credits. I said it first.
It's not even conspiracy facts.
It's not. No, it's not even conspiracy time yet.
I got a question, since we're just out here asking questions. So, we've heard in the news here about these oil leases and whatnot that are going on. And I'm thinking, what the hell isn't this? This is like, I don't know if you've seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High when Spicoli orders a pizza in Mr. Hand's class, and he goes, Mr. Hand, I thought it was our time. And he says, Mr. Spicoli, you're right. It is our time. And he goes over and he says, pass out this pizza. So why does the government own our freaking oil leases? That's our oil lease. Why do they get the money for it? I'm just saying, I think we should get our share of the oil lease. Each person should get a part of the oil lease. I don't care if it's 29 cents. I want it.
That's how they do it in Alaska, I think.
Yeah, they do. But let's talk about how things really happen. We socialize the losses, right? So all the losses we socialize across the society, and people end up getting taxes. Their labor is literally extracted from them. But then they personalize the profits. And that's perfect fascism, right? The melding of corporate and government interests for the benefit of the few. So Charles, here's my question for you, since you're... Yeah, go ahead.
The worst thing about it is those companies that are no good, they should fail, and they don't fail because they're just finding a way to game the system or whatever, to trade this and trade that. When in reality, another better, more efficient, more streamlined company, better to their employees, could take their place. But government steps in; it doesn't allow that to happen.
Well, it's just like Westinghouse stringing copper in New York City and Boston, right? we couldn't have free electricity, even though Tesla had figured it out. The electricity literally exists around us and in the air. You just have to know, which I don't know how. I'm not an engineer type, I'm a salesperson type. So I don't know how to extract this out of the air, but Tesla figured it out. But they already had the contracts in place to string the wire. And, when you think about it, what is the coolest thing ever? You think about different kinds of business models, right? Where you can get a large chunk, like I used to flip houses. So you can make $20,000 by buying a house, fixing it up, and selling it. But then that transaction is harder to do the next time because you've still got to go out and find, the diamond in the rough and the supply and a big thing of capital. What is cooler than that is taking a system and creating it and then extracting just a little bit from every single person in the country. So you think about the monthly recurring revenue of the utility companies that was started with, Westinghouse and, all Edison and all of those guys. They created a system where they're extracting just a little bit of capital and a little bit of labor, a couple of $100 from every single household in the country. How brilliant is that? And then they use the
It's
force
about
of
as
government.
brilliant as 3% on a credit card for across.
Let's not even start about merchant services.
Or getting a percentage every time you run that card. What
That's
was
right.
that? Was it Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor in there? He figured out
the
some
half
way
a
to get that
pennies.
half
The
the
half
penny, and he
pennies.
ends up doing something with it. It's like, I
The
can see how that
roundups.
would work. All right, so this has just been a great conversation. I don't see our guest back there, but so we're going to go probably a little bit more seriously here. I got a little clip here to go. This is a house. Well, it explains itself, but this is a house that's in my neighborhood. It's about 4 blocks from my house, and this well, I'm just going to play this. It's a little long, but it's a story, and it's a story that happens in a lot of neighborhoods here in Indianapolis. So here you go. Let's just watch this, and then I'm sure we'll have some good questions after that. So here you go. 950 Denison here in Mars Hill. And as you can see, there's some bikes out here, and this house is not in that bad a shape right now. This is about 2 weeks after squatters had moved in to this house that was been vacant for a while. Concerned neighbors called in for about a month before this overdose happened. This guy was actually at our Mars Hill 5th year anniversary celebration on Friday getting a meal, and then this next Tuesday, he passed away from a drug overdose. It's just sad that the city cannot do anything until it's too late or someone dies. The very next day, someone from the city came out and boarded up the property, but it only took a few days for squatters to break back in and continue their mischief.
Hey you guys, Lisa here, Lisa for Indy, and I'm at a home that has had squatters in it for a number of months. Initially, lots of folks have been calling and complaining about it, and nothing was done. After that, they boarded up the house, but then squatters have gotten back in that open window. There's trash everywhere. There is high grass. It's just a wreck. This has got to be fixed, you guys. We've got to improve processes with BNS and with the health department, and that's going to be on my list of things to do.
All right, I'm here at the corner of Troy and Denison at what's now known as the squatter's house. And as you can see, the grass is really tall. And it's been sort of boarded up. And we have here is, oh look, we got a little garden action going on here, some tomatoes. But yeah, the door's wide open. This has been broken out. And then we have over on this side, looks like we've had a little bit of a fire going here. So that was either lit on fire or what's up. But this house we've called on for going on 3 months now to get the city to do something. And I talked to Anna Dorfman of the health department, and I asked her 3 times, why don't you fix the system? Because she kept saying that our hands are tied. We can't do anything because of the law. It takes us all this time period to get out. And I asked her 3 times. I said, well, why don't you get the law changed? I said, I know that the city can only make ordinances, but why don't you get the law changed? And she never did answer the question. So how do we get people out of houses before there's a death by overdose, or it's burned down, or all this other stuff? And we have kids in this neighborhood that see this. And it's really a cancer in our neighborhoods, and especially the Mars Hill neighborhood. We have this problem. And you know, they'll get run out of this house, but then they'll go to another one down the road. And this isn't the first one that's been burned by squatters. I think I'll be able to show you another one in a little bit. But here you go. There's the infamous squatter house on Troy and Denison in Mars Hill. All right, here's another house in Mars Hill that was abandoned, and you see the grass is high here. But this particular house had squatters in it, and I believe the house has caught on fire twice, and you can see that it's pretty trashed out. And then they also had caught this garage in back on fire. Now, it was pretty much just an inside thing, and obviously you can see that's blocked, but it didn't happen. But you know, we have nice houses around this, but this is obviously probably still got some squatters living in it because it's not really boarded up that securely. And it's just another issue that's not been corrected over several years here. So I'm just going to ask the city, what plans do you have? And as I said in my last video, I asked who's working on this. Are you just barely keeping your head above water, or do you actually have people that can work on how to get these problems solved? And again, no answer. All right, here's another situation in Mars Hill. This person was down on the corner, and I believe the health department told them they had to move, so they just moved about a block away. And as you can see, this dog here is on a rope sitting out here, and imagine somebody might be in there. I don't know if it's, that house looks like it's being worked on, and it is vacant. So it's another issue of someone who's just probably really struggling to get along and has to resort to living in a camper that's probably not safe, in situations it's just not right for people to live in. All right, we're here at the squatter's house, and that was a picture of a couch that's out by the curb, and this is 2950 Denison Street and Troy Avenue. And hey, look at this. We have some work going on in the house. So they had court today, and I'm going to give you a little tour here of what squatters do to your house when they leave it, when they live in it for a while. It's a mess. And then you have the company that owns the house is working on things here. So hey, this is a guy that works for the company. He's working on it, and here we go inside here. You can see that this is what it looks like when squatters occupy your house for about 3 months. So they're in here, they're cleaning up, and there's no. Oh, the refrigerator's still here. They have that. Let's see, they boarded up from the inside. How they boarded this up? That's an interesting way to do something. And then the water heater's still here. That's good. And they're in here cleaning up. You see they got all sorts of trash and things here. And this was the front door area. And it's sorted up. Let's see what we have here. Here's one of the bedrooms. It's a little dark, but there's junk and trash in there. And then, oh, they haven't even gotten back here yet. So this is sort of what it looks like when squatters occupy your house for a couple months. And when you talk to the city health department and the officials, if it's occupied, Business Neighborhood Services takes care of it. And if it's not occupied, if it's vacant, then I think the health department does. They have that the other way around. But as you can see, that used to be a closet. Now it's like not a closet. So these folks were just sort of living like this. But now the owner has come today and is cleaning up things, and this place is going to be on the market as a rent to buy at some point. So hey, if you're looking for a house, well, here's another place where they had a fire that burned here. So I don't know, it was very interesting here. So but there we go. That's This probably will conclude the squatter's house. Now, my wife did see them, 4 people leaving this morning, headed east. So I may go try to see which house they move to, because that's how this works. They just move to another house and we start it all over again. Rinse and repeat.
Crazy.
I've always wondered what those look like on the inside.
Yeah.
I always wanted to know.
Yeah, that was, so I'm sorry that was a little long, but that's about a 3-month story right there. That we've been taking, I've been taking videos, and like I said, we drive that way to go to wherever we go, and you see this happening. And now they're somebody's broken back in again to that same house. And I talked to the guy that was there working on it. No, I actually talked to the property management company. And she told me, I said, well, are you going to sell it, or what are you going to do? Well, it's going to be a rent to buy, or we're going to sell it outright, but we can't do anything right now. And I don't know if that was the health department that was stopping them or what was stopping them from doing something. But I mean, this is a problem. I talked to Senator Mike Young about, hey, Mike, why don't you make some laws about this stuff? He says, we have laws. It's about enforcement. People, we have just such a hard time getting any assistance over here on anything. So, and that is a perfect scenario of how bad it is and how bad it can get with this situation. So I'm going to open it up to questions, comments, or whatever. So, how about the camper? I mean, there's just a lot of stuff there that you can take. And I guess,
hey, if I'll make one comment. Because I thought about it, seeing someone live out of a camper, and I know most of you could do this, but having lived out of a rucksack for like 8 months or 10 months at a time, you can live just about anywhere. And when you lose comfort for about 72 hours, in my experience, that's about all it takes before you like adjust to your new scenario. So, I'm not saying that because you made the comment, John, that people you just can't live like that. And I'd say they can. They just need to have a place to go to do that. Like they need to go rent a little park space somewhere and pull their truck and camper in there. And that's another thing I was saying. How is this even possible? Drugs are illegal. There's programs all over for them. There's laws against tall grass. There's laws against the overall condition, and there's laws against tomato plants. There's laws against having a fire. How is this even possible? How is it even possible? Like you said, like Senator Young said, there's already laws against it. So how is that even possible? Or does it go to show that you can have all these laws like either if you don't enforce them or
it's subjective. And if these folks have no money, so you can't fine them. You can't, where are we going to put them? You made a very good point about where we put people. And I think that, one of the comments I want to make here is, do you think that our standard of living has gotten so high that it's left a lot of people behind? I mean, you think about the codes and the building codes and the expense we have to build a house and to keep a house, and basically
government.
I wasn't going to say
inflation,
anything.
regulation.
Well, I think that house rates are out of completely out of whack right now compared to people's salary and what they're pulling in. I think what we're paying out for housing right now is a bit much.
Wages haven't
as
kept
of
up.
now.
Wages haven't kept up.
No,
No,
they haven't.
no, no, they
they're
haven't.
talking about a 10-year car loan now. 10-year car loan.
Because when they tell you it's 2 point, there's a website you should look up. It's called Shadow Statistics, and it takes the inflation rate and measures it at like the 1980s level before they changed the definition of what unemployment is, and they changed all these economic definitions. But Shadow Statistics shows that inflation is like 18 to 20. Real inflation, nominal inflation, is like 18 to 20%. And the Fed is saying, "Oh yeah, we're doing this because we're going to keep it right at 1.9%." and that the rest of us understand that that is not reality. The reality is there's absolutely been 18 to 20% inflation. I own a Jimmy John's. I know that. And wages can't keep, they have gone up. Wages have gone up, but they have not gone up that much. And they can't go that much because we can't pay people that much money, or you're not going to have, that's why all these businesses are going out of business. All these restaurants are going out of business because they're looking at the numbers like, I can't even do this anymore. I can't pay these people this money.
If you can get them to show up. Well, the thing is, we got the auto workers on strike right now, and they're looking at, working a day less and more 40% more money.
Yeah.
And anytime that the taxes or increases are made, they get passed on to the consumer. It just goes right down the line. And I don't see an end, So one of the topics going around is the fall of Rome. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of the comments on that, but Lucy, I want to get you out here, and I see you nodding your head. What do you make of the fall of Rome? I mean, we're like not learning from that, are we? And before we go to that, I'm going to save this for my conspiracy theory. So go ahead, Lucy. What do you think about all that business?
Let's talk about the money system in Rome versus the money system now, and why it's easier to fool people right now. First of all, people have the mistaken idea that they're smarter than people were back in Roman times. I think with raw brain power, we're much less. And that's not entirely due to fluoridation in the Prussian school of public schooling.
And lead paint.
Yeah, lead paint. But fluoride is really, really bad. That's a great rabbit hole to go down. But I think Charles will agree with me on this, and that is that the insidiousness of inflation is the fact that when they're inserting trillions of dollars very quickly into our monetary system, we don't see it. That's a big contrast to what happened to Rome. Back in the day, in Roman times, you had metal coins, and those metal coins were stamped, and you knew how much they were based on the smelter. So if Caesar needed more money, as the money came through, they would simply clip a little piece of the coin off, called coin clipping. So you see the physicality of 1/8 or 1/16, whatever that little clip was, of the weight of your coin was gone. So the real value of that coin was literally stolen. You could physically see it, but then Caesar declared that the money was still worth the same. Right. So then you think about the Weimar Republic, where, people were literally trying to, the women of the household were literally trying to get their husbands pay for the day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon so they could go spend it before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because the value is dropping so fast that, they couldn't spend it fast enough to be able to buy goods and services with it. And in our country, that started in 1913 with the Federal Reserve System, which was sold to us as a way of, getting rid of the highs and lows in the monetary system, just like everything else. The Patriot Act is unpatriotic. Everything is the opposite. And so it really, though, hit the ground running with Bretton Woods in August of 71. And that's when Nixon closed the gold window. So you see throughout our history, the debt of the country, it's sneaking up, sneaking up, sneaking up. And then about 1971, it starts the hockey stick. And eventually we're going to be at the top. It's like that roller coaster ride, right? You get to the top, we're going to start our descent. And it's going to happen faster than anybody knows.
Yeah, I think that, well, you think about when we had like the toilet paper shortage, how everybody freaked out. That's just one item that went, or
these Americans need to learn the word bidet.
All I know is benite. So it's very interesting. So Brad, you're coming out of here. What do you got? What do you want to talk about on this thing about this squat? Let's talk about the squatter thing.
With the squatter, how did the squatters' rights become more powerful than the safety of the community?
According to Mike Young, they are not, but that's what the perception is.
But then if it's an enforcement thing, then it needs to be enforced. But if it's truly like a policy thing, then like that could be revisited too. I don't know that they should just shut down, one way of doing it because they don't think that that's the way. Like this is a problem that it seems like really all avenues should be explored, right? Like
I think the main problem is, what do you do with these people? Like I said, they're living hour to hour. I mean, we serve homeless 3 p.m. on Sundays. And I've been doing it for about 5 years with Kathy, and we used to serve 40 to 60. Now we're serving 100 to 120. So, and then Indianapolis had
Can you
spent
force
200.
people to go to them too? I mean, is that
No, this is all volunteer. We do a little, this one's a non secular one. It's, we have a little church service. They have goods there that are there. It's a wellness check. It's a lot more than just a meal. And a lot of these folks have been coming since I've been there. Now, some have died, some have passed away in the 5 years, but it's just I'd say probably a third of them are not homeless. They can't afford food. And so, now I'm seeing kids in there. And one of the things that just tore me up Sunday was there was a kid there. He was probably in his 20s, and he was so malnutrition that he looked like he'd come from a concentration camp. We took him straight to the hospital. I don't know how somebody gets to that kind of condition in this day and age in this country. I don't know who was taking care of him, what he was doing.
Charles, yeah.
It's only with governments because they have demanded this role. They see a need. Actually, the need was taken, but no system is perfect. So something tragic happens. Government comes in and says, we can't allow public to do this. So we have to do it. They tax us for it. They usurp that responsibility from us. And then they don't come through with it. Just like the house that you showed or any other, they don't come through with it. And so the question is, are we not doing enough, or have we had that role usurped from us? And I think that we've had that role taken from us when in reality, we have a plan. There is an answer that the community usually takes care of this. And the church used to take care of this, and families and communities used to help when we were engaged. But that role has been usurped from us, and now we're disengaged. We're not helping anyone, and we're looking around going like, hey, you guys said you're going to do this. You're taking all this tax money.
Is that because the government became involved, or is that because, the push or like that level of camaraderie with your neighbors went away?
I don't think so. I think the corruption today has proven that it's the prior. The corruption today has proven that they took that role from us to benefit themselves.
I'm going to agree with that. And Brad, I would say that, we had a neighborhood effort here. And I did another story about Breaking Bad. We had Steve Johnson's RV that moved from, it was a cross between that camper and the squatter's house. And, we had John Barber with the Barber Cabinets. We had Charles Johnson. We had Joseph. We had a group of us, Jody. We had a group of us that were putting pressure on this guy and, not allowing it, but we couldn't get any support from the government, from the city government, and on any of this stuff. And one of the things that really disturbs me about the politic, what's that?
But they took your money.
Oh yeah. One of the things about the politic so 4 years ago, the mayor, or actually it's been about 8 years ago, they spent $236,000, the city did, CHIP, Coalition of Homeless Intervention Prevention, to do a study. And the study was called To End Homelessness. In 5 years, we're going to end homelessness. Well, that 5 years has already come and gone, and we're doubled. So you tell me how good that study was. And you read it and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is the holy grail of homelessness stuff and blah, blah, blah. And all that money's gone. Those people paid. They got 12 people on their salary and nothing. And I got in trouble for criticizing them, but I went to a meeting at there and all they did was defend the entire time. I'm like, well, what do you guys actually do? Well, we count homeless people and we make sure we're an avenue to get government funding. Makes me crazy. So anyway, that was my little mini rant there for on how this situation is getting out of hand. But I really think it comes down to a standard of living that we've raised that bar so high that a lot of people are getting left behind. And
well,
as
John,
you said, Charles, go ahead.
John, you said too that with the standard of living, like if anybody's ever seen like Into the Wild or like anything where anybody just wants to like live on their own, does that make them homeless? Does it make them nomads? Does it make them less than anybody? Like it doesn't make it's their life. They should choose. Yeah.
They're human
how
beings.
To live it.
They're made in God's likeness.
So I mean, like they should be allowed to do what
Yeah, they should definitely have the freedom to do that. But when you
however,
property and destroy it, that's like when you got to say, hey, wait a second. Plus the drugs and like I said, we have kids here, and so that's my biggest thing. And and I'm not a person that's out here, let's put them in a pile and burn them. I'm out here trying to find a solution and trying to help. I mean, we have 2 recovery meetings at our art center. We have a recovery church in the back that meets on Sunday.
Amen.
The Methodist Church has an AA. It's not like we're not.
It sounds like the
stuff.
community is still involved. So like what?
Oh yeah.
So I guess like would it have been better if the government just never stepped in?
Yeah.
I think if they would let us take care of stuff, but then we're the police and
rules
we're the authority.
I mean, there has to be
a safety net, and now the community is a safety net. It used to be roles were flipped. Government always came in and they said, "Hey, we're just the safety net," but now they are
that's
the
thing.
provider.
It should be the same thing because like the government or the representatives, especially in small government, like small town government, at least, it should be people that you are aware of on more than just that's my representative kind of a person. Like them from something else.
Right.
Maybe that's not the case, but it's
no. Well, in this case, when I talk to, I think they're happy that that their hands are tied, because then they're gonna have to go out and do the work, because they say, well, we can't do anything. And if especially they get in there, then we have to evict them like they're in there. So it's 21 days eviction. And this stuff, as soon as people get in there, they will steal whatever they can steal and go scrap it. And then it ends up like that. And
that's what I mean. That seems like it is a community safety issue at that point then. Like, and so how is that not?
It's private property for that anyway.
Yeah. Well, and one of the ways we did this was we'd find the property owners, and a lot of these people are property owners that are buying these properties in underserved neighborhoods. They just hold them until the government comes in and either burns your place down or takes it or whatever, and then they redevelop it, and then they sell their.
Well, so that should be the law that should be changed then, right? Like
exactly. I have proposed those type of laws. If you have a vacant house, it's $5,000 extra property tax for each year. But we're going to give you an incentive. We're going to fix it up. We're going to let you go back to 2005 code, which is adequate for anyone to live. And we lived with it for years and years, not this 2019 Muni code that makes it's a utopian type of build. So there's ways to do this.
2030 yet.
Oh, well, I don't even.
Well, no. And so, yeah. And so like, it is like, it's going to be necessary to work with the government to get where you want to be. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's cooperation. We just need some cooperation. We just don't get it.
No, it's going to be frustrating. Like that video, that was insane to watch.
And it's, we call and call and call. So if the
rights were respected, then and everyone supported the owner to just keep people off the lawn or whatever, the neighbors say, you got to go beat it. And everyone supported that guy would be out of town and move on to the next town until they
and that's how we got rid of Breaking Bad, Steve Johnson. We actually took him a meal after I took 5 meals to the people that were there after we served downtown, and we sat down and we broke bread with them. We talked to him, and we got him to move, and he didn't hate us. I think that's about your best scenario you could do. And you talked about people live how they live, and I mean, we've come out of the age of COVID where you wash your hands every 10 minutes, you sanitize everything, you sanitize your bologna sandwich, and all that. And you should see how dirty some of these people are. Their hands had not been washed in months. They're out digging scrap and all this, and you're thinking, now wait a second, how do these people live like this without being sick or dying or whatever? It just, it's like
John. I thought I got bed bugs from that video. Like watching that video.
Yeah, I know, and it's like, but Charles made a point. You get used to it. They say that a homeless person will be, if they go longer than 2 weeks, then they'll be homeless for a longer time. But 2 weeks is your threshold of, I can't do this anymore. That's one of the things we've noticed.
But once people hit that threshold and realize that they can live that way, like I don't know that you're going to change their mind back. And that's what they want to do. But
it
then
is
it's
a
like,
subculture.
yeah, oh god, most definitely, yeah.
And we see here in
Hey,
Mars Hill, we're like a
right.
crossroads. We see you'll see somebody with a backpack walk through. You'll see them one time, and they're so it's the trafficking. And Charles, you were going to say, Charles, you were going to say
I
something?
noticed at the beginning it was interesting. I only noticed. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed at the beginning, I only noticed it because I've only seen it one other time when I was doing a hospital rotation when I was still trying to earn that coveted Green Beret. But they brought a guy in that had a heart attack and he had that compressor on him. Did you guys notice it when he was getting pulled out? He had that compressor on his chest. And the first time I saw it,
wild.
Yeah, this was back in 2008 timeframe. So there's probably version 1 or whatever. But it was like I can't remember the word. I can't think of the word. But it's very dramatic watching that thing crush on the dude's chest and just apply these extreme their chest cover even.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the guy was on the Friday night. He was at our event getting a meal, and on that next Tuesday, he was on that stretcher. And it's just, and he was one of the guys, and I knew him. I know this will be the 4th person I know that has died from fentanyl, or I don't know what his was. They said it was a heart attack, but I think we all know.
Did he look like?
No, he was not. It was not a heart attack. He was. No. He looked like he was doing okay that night, but this fentanyl is such a tricky deal. I mean, the 2 other people that I knew that were dead in a van, they were experienced users, let's say. So for them to die was not. It wasn't like, hey, it was totally a mess. And when these new drugs come out, even when we had Katie, and if for those that I'm showing my Mars Hill drug knowledge here, and I apologize for that, but Katie is where you take bug spray and you spray it on something and you smoke it. Well, when they first started this, I know. I know way more than I should know. Okay. So well, come on down to Mars Hill. We'll educate you. Now that Katie is gone, this fentanyl sort of taken over Katie and that. Now we got some heroin come. There's always something coming down. But what would happen was when they first started, the word gets out. Hey, you can smoke this bug spray on here. Just put a squirt of this on there. Well, some people put 9 squirts on. They put 9 squirts on, and they would be. You've probably seen some of the videos where they're barking like dogs, or they're just like tweaking. Generally that's a Katie thing. So I'm down here on Man Road, and I see this gal. She was on the side, and she would walk out by the yellow line and point like this, and turn like that, and then point like that, and then walk back. And there was
that's not fair. That's not a drug thing though. That's like a boredom thing. I can't believe that that's a.
It was.
You'd want to go there.
Afford drugs. If you can't afford drugs,
it makes no sense. Like it. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a demon. These drugs are demons.
Like Witty,
and meth
man.
What do you say? Did he get?
That sounds horrible. Like,
formaldehyde. Yeah, that was something that I've heard of. Obviously, I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. I was always scared that I'd be getting in trouble of all that, and I don't think people want to see me on anything but regular oxygen. So, but yeah, so this is, and I know I played that video on purpose. I've been saving it in case we have a guest thing, because it's an interesting topic, but this is not something this is common in a lot of these neighborhoods that are like this. And, we have the most walking residents probably in the city. And it's not because they want to, it's because they have to. When I go ride my bike, it's because I want to. These folks ride because they have to. And we have no sidewalks here. These people ride. I don't know why we're not on the news at least twice a month for somebody getting run over. But, it's like
is that something that, I mean, and that seems like something that the community can like win. Is sidewalks.
Right, well, Here you go, Brad.
And not to be like you guys haven't tried or anything like that. Like I'm sure you guys have like.
Oh well, I told the
It's-
city, I told my councilman, I said I will pay for and put these sidewalks in, and they said you can't do it. I said, well then you guys do it. Well, we don't have the money. I said, well let me do it. It was like a who's on first for about 5 minutes before he told me to shut up. But this is what we're doing. They said you can't get easements. I'm like, dude, I got easement. I had a sewer utility. I got poop easements through people's yards. You don't think I can get an easement for a sidewalk? Don't. Challenge accepted. So yeah,
but that's just that's government making it harder to do anything. Like
you asked Lucy about the fall of Rome. These are examples.
I was gonna say, like,
lost
Lucy's
no,
gotta be in
lack
favor
of
of all
respect
this.
for institutions, the government not being able to suppress uprisings because people have completely lost faith, and frankly, after 300 years or so in this Constitution, looking back, you should never have faith in your government in the first place. That's the wrong that our founders taught us that. They taught us that.
We were
Brad,
actually sold out.
Brad, are you rolling your eyes?
I did. I think because I was just watching. I was listening to
Lucy,
an audiobook
good.
today, and it was David McCullough talking about John Adams and stuff, and I'm like, man, we take for granted a lot of like the work or like just the blueprint that they laid out.
Keeping us from being stupid like this. And
yeah, man, I mean, like, and honestly, like they couldn't predict any of this. So when I was listening to it, I was like, yeah, I think we take for granted a lot of the legwork that they did for a whole bunch of us that we don't even pay attention to.
Yeah, I would love to see John Adams on TikTok.
He would be
awesome.
So mad. He would be the angriest person on TikTok.
TikTok is the low IQ platform. He wouldn't be on there at all.
Exactly. If he had
LinkedIn.
a platform on TikTok, do you have any idea how disgraceful it would be to him?
Oh my gosh! But you know what? We were sold out from the beginning. I'm sure that Charles knows all about this with the Articles of Confederation versus the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to the Constitution, it became one of maybe only 2 documents in the history of the world where a government was required to pay its debts. And so what ended up happening is all of these war bonds that were created to fund the Revolutionary War effort became worthless. There was no central authority to make sure that they were actually paid. It's like, buying a bond that the municipality goes out of business, right? And so by creating the Constitution, and of course, before that, leading up to the Constitution, those in the know went out and bought those bonds from farmers for pennies on the dollar. So as soon as the Constitution was signed and there was a central authority that was required to pay those bonds, they became face value plus interest. It's like if you could go back to like 1970 and buy a bond, for 3 cents on the dollar, what would it be worth today? That's why the Constitution was written the way it was. And the Bill of Rights was actually a huge bargaining tool. We were so thankful that Patrick Henry and some of the other founding fathers realized the scam that was being perpetrated on us, and they insisted that we have that Bill of Rights, because the original Constitution did not entertain the notion at all of the Bill of Rights.
It was your early version of insider trading, it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and even worse than that, because it's just like the city of Carmel, right? Like your great grandkids in Hamilton County, you're going to be paying for those rounders and for the public art and all that stuff in the TIF
But they're
districts.
good for 30 years, Lucy. They build 30-year roads up there. That's what they build. And plus, the kids by then, they'll be so confused they'll just never be able to get out of the roundabout. I mean,
the next thing the city of Carmel is going to have to pay for is all the mutilation surgeries.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh my God.
Okay, we're gonna.
It's 10:09. We got to stop.
We're pulling the plug on this one because we can't go down. No.
Hey, Susie, or Lucy, I'm sorry, Lucy. It was Governor Morris that bought a lot of those. I think he's gone down to history as buying a lot of those bonds.
Oh, I wondered who did it. Thank you for sharing that.
The guy that did that, and I think he turned that fortune into financing a lot of the Revolutionary War.
So Brad's got something up here. Have you been taking notes, Brad?
Yeah, no. I just wanted to say that I was so happy when Mark brought up he had a dry erase board just ready to go, and he was doodling on it for whatever he was talking about. I can't remember what it was.
He was supposed to be just announcing his show, and we went into a segment of I'm like, dude, but we were
But
trying
I
to kill
was-
some time, so I let
I
it
was
go.
so happy with that. I'm like, I'm not the only one who has like a dry erase board right next to like my desk.
You're not kidding.
Not that I'm needing to like compare myself to Mark to like make myself feel more normal, because I don't know if that's doing the trick. But like, you know, yeah. So
I was called weird on the WIBC today, or odd or something. So don't feel bad. You're in
that's a
good
badge of honor,
company
man.
here. You're in good company with the Weird Mouthwash show. So it's like, but I did hear that CNN only had 65,000 viewers this weekend, and I said that Mouthwash had more viewers than that. So,
oh yeah. Well, and it was interesting when I think it was Lucy that brought up Comcast earlier. But like I read an article today. They were talking about something about net neutrality. That would be a good maybe future topic. Just talking about cable companies and their stranglehold on everybody and all that whatnot. But yeah, they're talking about doing that again. So
all right, keep talking, because I see that Blair here is trying to get on. How late you guys want to go tonight? Lucy's not yawning yet, so let's see if we can get him on here. So maybe we can, maybe we can't. So I have to work my magic. I'm used to doing this on the fly sometimes. So I just sent him the link again. So let's see if he can figure it out. But yeah,
you want me to do my idea or like my thoughts on Rome? Like I don't do TikTok, so I had no idea what the heck that was.
I've seen some TikTok, because a lot of times people will put TikTok on Facebook. So I know a little bit about it. All I know is I don't want those Chinese people looking in my business. So I don't do the TikTok.
Well, the Rome thing, I just feel like citizens are happily uninformed for the most part. And then all of a sudden they demand answers. And I think that's where we might be. And that is dangerous, because I don't think those in charge have a lot of answers or accountability or, ways to.
I think we've gotten to the point we're electing populists. We're not electing people that can do the work.
Yeah.
We have our guest. Can you believe this? Let's bring him on. I'm going to bring him on here, add him to the stage, and here we go.
Welcome.
Oh,
hey.
Yeah, this is like extended viewership tonight. Blair, how are you doing this evening?
Well, good. I was trying, evidently I can't get on your service with a Mac, so I'm on my phone. I'm in downtown Minneapolis. And
I thought you said Indianapolis today. I
no,
was like, wow,
I'm
that was a
downtown
long trip.
And if you thought downtown Indianapolis had issues, you ought to see downtown Minneapolis. It's
bad?
scary.
Really?
Like how?
The George Floyd riots. I mean, half of the downtown is missing.
Is that where that was?
It's I hate to see it, because it's but everything here in Minneapolis is connected with skyways and bridges, so it's kind of cool. So
yeah, and it's St. Paul, Minneapolis, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Twin Cities.
We went through there on the way up fishing in Canada, or fishing in Minnesota with my kids. Right. And traffic was horrible. So that's all I remember. It was bad. So Blair, you're on here, and we're gonna insist that you come back on again, because we're way long on our show here. But
okay.
We do appreciate that. We'll just do sort of an introduction and maybe talk about one topic here. So Blair, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what the heck you're doing on the Mouthwash.
Well, John, you and I met how many years ago in my office?
Maybe about five.
And we had a good conversation. I'm a political consultant. I run campaigns on a PR firm, and we've probably in my career well over 130, 140 campaigns, all the way from Todd Rokita, Curtis Hill, Attorney General, and our recent big win was Daniel Elliott for state treasurer. And then we do a lot of mayor's races, a lot of state house races. I particularly love doing mayor's and sheriff's races. Those are my favorites. So our job is to get people elected.
Yeah, I think that I was one of the people that voted for Dan on the second ballot. So I can take a little credit by his 4 vote. That was crazy.
That was a big win. And then I turned around 2 months later, and Susie Jazarowski lost to Fred Glenn, her House seat, by 6 votes up in Hamilton County. So anybody that tells you that every vote, every vote counts in this world of ours.
Yep. So, one of the things we were going to talk about the recent passing of Jack Salin, and I know you were instrumental in getting him elected, and he's been a public servant in law enforcement and all that. And you mentioned I met you 5 years ago and end up running as an independent. And we have John Rust coming on, who's going to be taken off the ballot for his 2 primary rule. He's coming on October 10th, and we're going to talk about that. But he is suing in federal court, and I've heard that he may have a different angle at this.
Well, he can have a different angle, but he's not the only one. There's also a gentleman up in the 5th district that's trying to do the same thing. Multi-millionaire, really nice guy. Number one, doesn't live in the district, but in Indiana, you don't have to live in the district you're running in. You can live in Evansville and run for the 3rd district, so that's a law. But he's got the same situation going on. He hasn't voted in the last 2 Republican primaries, so guess what? He's not eligible unless the county chair signs off.
Hey, by the way, can I add that?
Yeah, this is with Charles Bookwalter in here. I was going to say.
Yeah, but this was one of the arguments of our case, and I can't remember the legal argument off the top of my head, but one of the reasons the courts are supposed to judge based on the merits is when there's going to be additional lawsuits like year after year. So when they foresee that, then they are supposed to. It's a legal policy. Strategy. It's a policy. It's what they do.
Oh, is that Charles Bookwalter? Oh,
yeah.
Hi. It's real little on my phone, Charles. I couldn't see we have the same affliction. So I see you.
I covered.
Yeah, we're gonna have a hair club for men next week. That's what we're gonna have. So
yeah, nothing's gonna come of that. I mean, he can sue all he wants, but
unless they win. Unless they win, I think that particularly here's why, Blair, because if an 18-year-old wants to run, they'll get one. They'll get one of these young people. Someone will get one of these young people to run for office that won't be eligible at 21 years old. And then that'll be the death knell of that.
Yeah,
I think, right? It's in the Constitution.
Well, that's already tried to happen. I mean, we had that happen with the mayor of Frankfurt. Okay, I mean, exactly same thing happened. He wasn't old enough to vote in 2 primaries. Somehow he got in. Will it happen someday? Yeah, but it's the party way. I mean, it's both Democrat and Republican. It's not just the Republicans. It's kind of the way of keeping good people in instead of having 92 people running. I understand where people are coming from, but there's got to be some consistency in how the whole system works. And having to vote in 2 primaries, that's kind of like the standard. So we'll see what happens.
I think closed primaries are the standard. Actually, it's not the 2 primary rule. It's actually an anomaly. It's it's the other.
Right.
I think we should do it like the Libertarians, have a convention and call it even, and then we have exciting races like Dan Chamberlain and Elise Nahala on there. Nashala, yeah, that was fun.
We'll see what happens there. I mean, I think we've got some possible changes coming up in both parties. I mean, listen, we just got rid of slating, and we've had slating for decades. I think Indiana Marion County might be the last county, maybe Lake County, but Marion County was probably the last county that I know of in the country that got rid of slating. Now, there's other forms of it, okay?
Right.
But the pure slating process where you had a back room with some guys smoking cigars, choosing who the candidates were, those days are over.
Yeah, well, it's different days, I think. So let's change.
That point because even there's a comment from Jerry that says that the closed primaries is a better alternative to a 2 primary rule. A closed primary would require that you register a year in advance. That's how most states do this. And an open primary is the problem. So having additional primaries to keep the Democrats out of the Republican Party is a Band-Aid on what is a much easier solution, which is a closed primary, instead of having an open primary where you can just walk in and pull whatever ballot you want. And then that they, that like Operation Chaos, right? When they did that that's the reason some of these Republicans in Indiana have like John Crane, I think, has got a Democrat, right? Because he was a part of Operation Chaos to vote for Hillary.
Right.
But a closed primary would, if you're going to have a primary.
Well, Operation Chaos was Obama, wasn't it?
It was to vote for Hillary, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to vote for Hillary. Yeah, to get it was just, and sometimes it's just going in and vote. Just go in and vote. So, Blair, let's talk about the mayor's race coming up. Do you think this is going to be an abysmal turnout for this election? You did think it's going to be really low numbers, or do you think it's going to get exciting enough to get some people out?
I think we're probably looking at a 15 to 18 point race. I mean, I don't see it much higher than that. I hope it is. I mean, for the first time in a long time since Greg Ballard. I mean, listen, Jim Merritt's one of my dearest friends, okay? But he couldn't raise the money, okay? I mean, he raised, what, 900,000, and 900,000 is, what, 2 weeks of TV here in Marion County. So, but Jefferson is a friend. He's run as good a campaign I think it can run. I very rarely criticize a campaign, how it's run, because I don't know all the inside and what's going on. I think Hogsett, I personally would like to see Jefferson come out harder. I don't think he's come out. I mean, where were you, Joe? What treatment center were you in? Answer our question, okay? And to me, there's some things that are off limits, John. Family and health are off limits. But when you blatantly do what Joe Hogsett did, you owe the public an explanation of where you were. Our city was burning down, and you had a deputy mayor who got in trouble for getting a bunch of women pregnant in Florida. You got a deputy mayor that was telling cops to stand down. What the hell? I mean, what kind of city is that?
Yeah, well, it was one that burned.
Yeah, exactly.
Friday night, I give him a pass for Friday night, but Saturday night was unacceptable, and it was the worst of the nights.
And that's just part of it. I mean, we've had, how many, it's just the same old murder thing. And John, I lived downtown for 9 years. And I was right in the middle of downtown, condo overlooking Indianapolis. I couldn't have enjoyed it more. I mean, restaurants, bicycles. I was 5 minutes from the State House. But New Year's Eve, I'm laying there listening to machine gun fire, John. Machine gun fire.
Welcome to Marzell.
And so we, I decided I'm out of here. This is just, so I moved to the South Side. But yeah, I think it's going to be closer than people think it is. It's not going to be a 60-40. I think it could be a 55 on his side, maybe a 52. I hope Jefferson pull it out. I mean, there's a lot of money yet to be spent, guys.
Yeah, he said it was going to be the most expensive race ever. So, Joe's got 4 or 5 million, and Jefferson's got him personally has got a lot more million than that. But it's like, how much do you put in, and how much do you do on this? But I saw Joe Saturday at an event, and he did not look well. I mean, he does not look well.
So I would like to ask all the members on this panel if they've ever seen an interview with Joe Hogsett after 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
No.
Doesn't happen.
I would tell you my story about Night Ride, but it's, and that was at 10:30 at night. So
you're never going to see Joe after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And what's that tell you? I mean, but what amazes me is
early to bed, early to rise.
Well,
Yeah. Here's a question for you that we have. It's like ballot harvesting. This is, what can you tell us about that, and how I see you sort of smiling already. You hear about this stuff, rigged elections, ballot harvesting, and all this. Set us straight on this.
Well, listen, there's a lot of definitions of ballot harvesting, rigged elections. I'm a Republican. I'm kind of known for being a moderate to conservative. I'm not a John Jacob nutcase. I'm a logical middle of the road Republican. And I do not believe that the Trump lost that. I mean, Trump won that election in a million years. You know, if people actually believe that happened, that would have been the biggest conspiracy in the history of the world. So, you know, I don't. Does that answer your question, John?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I guess that, you know, a lot of people, you know,
I'm
you
still
hear
stuck on
stories about going to a nursing home and,
Oh,
you know, doing absentees for these people. They don't have any clue what they got. So.
that. Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
that's
come
too easy
on.
of an answer. You got to
I
get
mean,
more.
I tell you who does that the best are the sheriffs, because the sheriffs show up in their full uniforms with the police car, with their sheriff's car out in front. And the older people in the nursing home. Oh, this is great. So listen, I'm
Run
all
the
for
siren.
that. How else are these people going to vote, John?
Yeah, I know.
Now they're not taking ballots to them; they're taking applications for ballots. It's illegal for me to take a ballot into a nursing home. Okay, I mean you go to jail for that crap, but you can take in the application, right? And I'm all for that. I mean, you know what? Running elections is hard stuff. Ask Charles Bookwalter. This
Yeah,
this is it's a hard thing because
so
you're
let's put Charles on the
not a
spot
hammer.
here. So he's running against Jim Baird here. Who's your horse in that race?
who me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Blair. Who's your
Well,
horse? I mean, he's right here. He's right here. You can't tell me no story. He's right up there. So.
you know, Jim Baird's a
Hey, we
friend.
just called John
I
Jacob
ran,
in that
I
case.
ran
I'm not
Diego,
sure I
I
want the
ran
answer.
Diego Morales' campaign when he ran for Congress, when he ran against Jim Baird. Jim Baird, Diego, and this other guy, well, Mike Braun's brother,
Steve.
Yeah, Steve, who recently passed, God rest his soul. I mean, we were too busy beating the shit out of each other. Can I say shit on Mouthwash?
Okay. That happens on occasion.
So we were too busy beating the crap out of each other, and Jim Baird, old country boy, with all his millions, just kind of slid right in there and kicked our ass. You know, I mean, plus it wasn't real smart of Braun sending out a mailer making fun of a Vietnam veteran losing an arm in Vietnam.
That's not a good
That
look.
was the second stupidest mailer I ever saw in my life.
Well, what was the first one?
Well, if you'll remember, back when Brose McVeigh was running against Julia Carson for Congress, okay, she was in Congress, and Brose was actually beating her by about 4 points with about a week going into the election. So somebody told Brose that he needs to do a mailer about Julia Carson's hats. Well, you don't make fun of a black lady going to church hat. That's about the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. So Brose McVeigh does this mailer making fun of Julia Carson's church hats. He loses by 14 points. He did that big of a swing.
So what you're trying to say is we'd have the Brose McVeigh travel center downtown if he wouldn't have made the hat comment.
Yeah, and they're on Fall Creek too. That was one of the biggest blunders I'd ever seen. The mailer about making fun of Jim Baird. Jim, we'll see how many. I don't see him serving more than a couple more terms, to be honest with you, unless Charles can pull a miracle off. Which, hey, it's all about timing, John. We have a governor who didn't have a job 143 days beforehand. We have a vice president who wasn't going to win his state election. We had a president who was 9 points down with 10 days to go over Hillary, and he wins. So it's all about timing and being in the right place, okay? Baird's going to be hard to beat. Charles knows that. But I will remind Charles that Mike Pence lost his first 3 elections before he won anything, okay? So don't let this, disturb you for whatever happens, and I wish you all the luck in the world. It's all a matter of timing, being in the right place at the right time.
I look forward to our glass of champagne together, Blair. I look forward to our glass of champagne together.
Okay, we'll do it.
That's we like spirited competition. I think we need more of it, and that's
one
of the reasons that the two primary thing.
I'm all about it. The thing with Sandlin, we've got the caucus coming up, which is going to be quite dramatic, I think.
I talked to Dave Taylor last night, who's in charge of that that situation. He said 6 people have already approached him. So
Yeah, well,
it's,
I'd be willing to bet I know who's going to win that, because it honestly, it comes down to who Lydia Sandlin would like to have. Quite honestly, because if you look up at Jackie Waworski's race, her husband got up and said, "I want Rudy Yoakum," and
yeah, he cleaned it up. Yeah,
it was over. And once Lydia sends out who she wants, I mean, you know, and then they got this nutcase John Jacob, who showed up last week trying to get the paperwork for the finances. What? I'm sorry if he's watching this, dude. You are a lowlife. The body isn't even cold yet, and you're trying to take his seat. Number one, you can't get the papers until the caucus has been called, and the caucus won't be called till Monday. So,
yeah, well, and that's one of the things that I know the little I know of Jack. I mean, he was one that really took me to the woodshed when I ran as an independent. So, it literally took me 4 years for him to actually speak to me. So fortunately, the last conversation I had with him was with Julie McGuire, Cindy Mowry, and him and Mike Dilk, and we had a good conversation.
Right.
And I think he let me off the hook finally.
Jack was a wonderful guy, Vietnam veteran, police in charge of investigations for IMPD. But what people don't know is they didn't see the softer side of Jack. All they saw was the badass, and he was a badass.
Yeah, he was. He had that look.
But he was just. I mean, we're having a service at the State House, the viewing on Friday morning. But yeah, and you go back to his race to beating Shreve. Here's a funny. So we spent $61,000. Jefferson spent well over 400. But what happened was Jefferson at that time, Marion County and Johnson County was majority of Marion County, but Johnson County had about 1,100 votes. Okay, well, Jefferson spent all his time in Marion County and won Marion County by 4 votes. But he didn't spend any time in Johnson County, and Jack won by 610 votes. That's why you got to pay attention to history.
Yeah, well, and it's it's tricky, but as someone once told me that money is the mother's milk of politics, and I think that goes back to the 1800s.
Oh,
so
it is, but Jack outworked Shreve, knocked on every door, made every phone call. I mean, Jack worked his butt off, and Shreve did too. But somebody got a hold of Shreve and said, "All you got to do is spend money," and that doesn't always work. And that's why I look at a guy like Charles Bookwalter and I go, okay, he's got a chance. He just needs to knock on every door in his district.
And it's a big district. It spreads out, but he seems like the guy that's doing that, and he's still got time to come on the Mouthwash show. So, that's one of the things. He's still got time to come on the Mouthwash show. I mean, he's out there. He had meetings tonight and rushed home and did this. And
right. Charles.
Yeah. And I think one of the things while we're talking about that, this little show that we started, this is the 139th episode, and Lucy's been with us for quite a number of those. And Charles is a fill-in for Tiffany because she's running and we can't have her on the panel 60 days before. And Brad is a brave Democrat, which we're starting to like him. I mean, I was wondering if he was going to make it, but
my Republican friends always say that I'm a conservative Democrat. I don't.
Well, Brad, you'll get a kick out of this. My Brad, you'll like this. My business partner for 14 years is a Democrat, and he probably writes the best Republican copy you've ever. I mean, most of the campaigns that you've seen me do, my television commercials, and all the Curtis Hill stuff, and all the Rokita, and all that stuff, and all the statewide senators, he wrote all that. He's a Democrat, so he's like you. He's what I would call a Reagan Democrat.
There you go.
The Tip O'Neill Reagan years. Those were good years. One of the favorite commercials that Mark Small talked about was Bill Levin's.
I did that.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said he was like, "Oh man, that was a great commercial where he's walking down the street," and I remember that commercial. So. It's interesting to put a behind the scenes face with some of this stuff. And what I was going to say about the Mouthwash show is I don't think a lot of places are covering local stuff. I just threw this show together and we had Gary Varvel do a logo for us, and we've been just sort of building it. But where can you go to find real talk like this? We're talking about election stuff that a lot of people, their stories, the panel's just sitting here listening to you.
Right.
I mean, it's because it's interesting. I think people really want to know what is going on behind the scenes. We see the commercials, we see the speeches, we see the talk, but to actually get a talk more than 20 seconds or a 30-second commercial or whatever, I think it's important. I think people are starving for this. I think there's a vacuum between the CNNs and the Foxes and the local stations and the cable news that's not being filled.
Well, I think you've come a long way. I mean, I get asked to be on a lot, and I think I even told you this. I don't normally do these. Number one, because I'm really not very good looking for a camera, and number two, I'm not all that smart. But I've been watching your show, and people around the State House talk about it. So I thought, what the heck? I know John. Let's get on there. He's not going to slice me up too bad. So
yeah, how about you?
Go from there.
Well, the IBJ, they said I was my wife's outspoken husband.
She's running for city council. Is that right?
Yeah, city council 17, and the numbers look good, but it's they're Hogsett was out here with their opponent today at a little park. They had 7 people there to do a press.
I heard they got a socialist running. Is that true?
Oh, Jesse Brown, he's been on the show. We had Libby Glass, so there's no Republican.
Oh, please put me on with a socialist.
He doesn't. He's not a socialist, is he, Brad? Brad, is he a socialist?
No.
Zach Adamson told me to my face that he was a socialist. So
well, that's what he claims, that he's a Democrat socialist. But we got him on here, and we thought we were going to have all these fireworks between a libertarian and a socialist, and they're both were anarchists, basically. And then we got Lucy the anarchist, so it was a love fest. And then we didn't get the fireworks we wanted, but it was a good show. And I was literally arguing with him on Twitter today because he thinks that we need to give everybody a bunch of money and free everything. And that part, he's socialist. And I'm like, well, what? Yeah. So
that's working real well in LA, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's the biggest thing of socialism is it kills incentive. And right. I tell them, hey, bring the socialist on, because I will quit laying bricks. I would just sit here and wait for the government to bring my meal and, to rub my feet and all the stuff they promised me. I'm ready for it. Bring it. Let's go.
Right.
But
we'll see how that works on the city council. I mean, because you got to remember, their big deal is meatless Mondays. We got to have frickin' meatless Mondays. I mean,
they got the carbon thing. They're doing the climate control stuff. I mean,
we'll see. John, why do you think they has no turns on red? Why do you think they want the red line? Why do you think they want the blue line? Why do you think they want the purple line? They don't want us to have cars.
Yeah, it's a war on cars. They shut down the circle.
It's a war on cars. That's what this is all about. Okay. The red line
sucks having a car downtown.
More than your car that they want. I think it goes a little bit deeper.
Can I put something in here because I haven't talked?
Yeah. No, go ahead, Lucy.
It's not just a war on cars. It's a restriction on the movement of labor. If you can keep your slaves confined to your own plantation, then they can't go seek better work elsewhere.
That's a pretty radical view, but I would agree.
I think they're trying to depopulate.
I mean, that
too. But what are you going to do with who's left?
It just doesn't make. But these bus lines are losing millions, and they keep building them.
They had a Zoom call to explain the blue line, and I asked 4 times in there, "What's the P&L? What's the profit and loss on the blue line?" Well, Ari Cassell, who is Tony Katz's old producer, he is in charge of the promotion of the bus line of the Indigo. And man, he sent me a text afterwards just cussing me out. What are you on there trolling about that? I said, well, I want to know what the numbers are. What are the numbers? So yeah, he was mad.
Let's remember, it's like they don't lose millions. They don't lose it. We do. We lose the millions. They don't. The contractor gets paid. The builders get paid. Everyone gets paid. The taxpayers are the ones that lose. Government doesn't lose money.
You're
And then
absolutely
they
correct,
redo it.
Charles.
They had to redo a lot of the stops because it was terrible engineering and the bumper was bad and it's just now.
But you didn't hear the big thing. You know where we bought the buses from, right?
Oh,
what
yeah.
country?
China.
And guess what the
China.
buses didn't
guys
have
say
on them when they arrived in Indiana?
License plates.
No, there was no heaters on them.
Oh,
They ordered buses with no heat. Okay. Now, what kind of mentality orders $1 million bus that doesn't have heat in the middle of winter in Indiana? That's Joe Hogsett. That's our city council. Okay.
But they worked in Arizona.
Did they know that, or was that one of those things that like? And I mean, I'm not saying it should have like gone by them, but like, did they know and still buy it?
How do you not buy a? I mean, are you going to go buy a car without a heater in it?
No, but I'm pretty sure if China's just selling you like $1 million bus, I don't know what the sticker is. If it has like, T-tops and like,
well,
central air.
You know what? If they didn't know, then shame on them.
Yeah,
okay.
No, I'm not saying that. Like,
well, and I see what they're claiming is we got to have all of these spokes. We got to have all these spokes on the wheel to make this work, and it's and it just I don't see it. I mean, Hoosiers love cars, and
you can't force people to use buses. Like you cannot force people into it.
Well,
yeah, I mean, listen. I'm all for mass transit. I mean, Jim Merritt. Everybody made fun of Jim Merritt for coming up with that idea of having the elevated rail all the way from Carmel down to downtown Indianapolis on Fall Creek. I'm telling you, I'm all for that. I'm all for light rail. I mean, I'm all for light rail from Indianapolis to Chicago. I'm all for light rail from Indianapolis to you're in Crawfordsville, right, Charles? Crawfordsville?
Beautiful Thorntown.
Okay. I'm all for light rail all over.
All the way to Thorntown.
This bus thing is that, I mean, we're destroying streets. We're going through Irvington, where it's not wide enough now. I mean, you can't ride your bike or you're going to get hit by one of these idiots. It's I don't know how we got on this topic, but it's this bus thing.
I raced when the red line came out. I raced it, Blair. It's 13.1. I did it in 30 minutes, and it took the bus 2.5 hours.
I forgot you're a big bike guy. I started biking during COVID, John.
Yeah, it's good. They say cyclists live an average of 6 to 10 years longer than the average person, unless you get hit by a car. That's that's just how it goes. So
it's okay.
Hey, but I'm a cyclist too. But hey, let's remember this all about cars, and we need our cars, and we need our fossil fuels, and we need to get off this mindset that we need to move to some kind of more efficient thing when these fossil fuels need to be called what they are.
Well, I would like to posit that there is no such thing as fossil fuels. They're actually renewable.
Right.
It was the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Actually, I think it was the Rockefellers.
Those are the fossils
that they were
we're talking
fossil
about.
fuels.
I would just like to point out that the monorail did not work in The Simpsons, and I think we need to take that into account.
Well, let's take a look about the fossil fuel situation and look what's going on up in Kokomo. 5 years ago, Kokomo was the single most union city in the Midwest, probably one of the most Democrat cities. More than out of 41 elected positions, the Democrats had 39 because of the unions and what happened up there. And they had a mayor that was a frickin' idiot who who hated cops and took the cop department from 119 to 79. We ran Tyler Moore and as the mayor. And we brought in the biggest EV factory in the United States. It's a $3 billion building with 1,800 new jobs. I'm proud to say, as of the last election, we now hold 40 seats out of 41 Republicans in Howard County. Now, the Democrats did that themselves because they refused to acknowledge that electric vehicles were the future. So now I've got 400 Korean families moving to Kokomo. I've got 1,800 new jobs, a $3 billion factory, and I've still got the unions bitching about it. I mean, I'm sorry. Our big problem in Kokomo is we don't have homes. We don't have any place to put these people.
Yeah. In Kokomo they had a pretty bad drug problem about a few years ago, I actually turned an H.H. Gregg into a church up there. I did the masonry work on it. So,
well, what
and
they
then we
did,
worked on a Kroger up there. So I'm a little familiar with Kokomo.
what they did is they had a mayor who got in bed with the developers, and they got all this federal funds, and they built all these apartments. Well, they didn't have people to put them in the apartments. So what they did is they advertised in Chicago, Detroit, and St. Louis, come and move to Kokomo. You get your first year free of rent. So every this is true. Every drug dealing family was moving to Kokomo from Chicago. And you go along, and even still today, you go in these apartment complexes, it's all Illinois license plates. So John,
it
the drug
was.
problem is bad.
I got to make, isn't developers getting federal funds very much like EV manufacturers getting federal subsidies?
Stellantis is not getting 1 penny federal subsidy. I mean, they're
Really?
no, they're not.
No, come
I
on.
happen to know
Is
because
there any EV? Then they're getting tax rebates. They're in the market. They're getting incredible incentives to do renew under the Inflation Reduction Act. There's like 2.3 trillion in incentives for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, look, we got a city of Indianapolis building a new hotel. I mean, Joe Huggs thinks he knows enough to run a billion.
Scam.
What the hell?
The sandwich shop in Lebanon has 8 Tesla chargers.
Right.
And so I don't have to be a genius.
A sandwich shop?
Yes, it's at the it's right on the exit. I can't remember. But I know I don't even have to have it confirmed. But I'm fairly confident that they got some kind of rebate or subsidy to put in
I will tell you,
Tesla chargers in very important property right there. Very valuable.
Some of the counties are getting that, okay? Like they're putting down in Morgan County, they're putting 17 EV chargers in at the Walmart there. But I don't know if that's
Indiana just got like 200 million to build chargers.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're getting this. I know the state's going to put them around, and quite honestly, I wish the state stayed out of that business. That should be private. Companies.
Is it basically giving out free gas to?
But not.
You still got to pay for it.
It's giving free gas to the very, very wealthy people.
Well, you still got to pay for
the. You have to pay for the energy.
No. Oh yeah. To charge your car, you got to pay for it. Yeah.
I got a separate meter at my house. I got a separate meter that I pay less money if I charge my car. And I actually got my underground brought to my house because of that meter. Otherwise, I would have had to pay $800 to get the wire. But they said, well, if you just put this other meter in, then we'll put it in for free. So yeah, there's some deals out there to be had.
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, listen, electric cars. I mean, listen, I'm a big Corvette crazy nut. Okay. And I love my Corvettes, but
you and Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, I don't have one. He's got a $250,000 Corvette. I'm not kind of in that category.
On his salary? How's that possible?
Yeah. But I mean, this new electric Corvette that's out, my God, there's nothing on the planet that comes close to being as fast as this thing is.
It's just.
I mean, but whether we like it or not, the combustion engine is a thing of the past, and the next 30 years, the problem is these EV batteries. What's happening in Kokomo? You've got the $3 billion plant for Stellantis, but you've got all these other companies that are been because these batteries are like $25,000. So what they're doing is they're manufacturing, and I've got all these other companies coming in Kokomo that are refurbishing them, or they're just, what do you call it, destroying them or
recycling,
repurposing them.
Yeah.
Yep. So, okay, I think we could go on for another hour here, but we're not gonna. I got one more question for you, Blair, that's from our viewers that we put. Oh, not that one. That's not it. That's coming up. This is one. This is about the mayor's race. How do we convince the hard R's, Shreve dissenters, to get off of their high horses? And I assume this is probably about the gun, his gun policy.
Well, listen, and Charles will tell you this, that nothing on this level is done without polling. Nothing. I mean, they don't go to the bathroom without doing a poll about it because they've got the money to do it, especially Shreve. They polled that. He's going to get his base anyway, John. I mean, his base. I was more worried about him pissing off the South Side base, because that's about as strong Republic. I live in Southport, so we're about as strong base. He's going to have that base anyway, John. That they're not. I don't know a single Republican that's going to go to the poll and say, "Oh, you know what? I don't want to vote for him because of the gun issue." Well, there's nothing either Joe or Jefferson can do about it. It's a state law. Deal with it. Okay.
Right. It's triple damages. And we've actually had Senator Tom's on that wrote the bill, and we explained it. And then still both of those candidates come out and say that. And
let's just say I was disappointed, but I understood the move. I understood why he did it. Jim Merritt kind of went through the same thing when somebody convinced him to walk in the Pride Parade. I mean, he caught holy hell for that, but
he was going to get egged.
What? Oh, it was.
He was going to get egged if he walked in it. That was the word on the street.
Well, it was, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's we're just in some really weird, sad times. I mean, God, if there was ever a time when we needed Ronald Reagan or somebody like him, the man worked across the aisle and everybody made fun of my friend Dick Lugar, but he wouldn't be putting up with this crap right now that's going on in our country. So it's
Reagan had good jokes too. I love his jokes. He was such a good storyteller, joke guy. He was a patriot. He was just one of those guys. He was like a cheerleader for us, and we need a cheerleader now.
And I would encourage anyone on the panel here or anybody listening, if you've never been to the Ronald Reagan Museum, it's worth the trip. It's one of the most emotional things I've ever experienced. It's beyond cool.
I'm still a little mad about the Reaganomics, the trickle down theory. I remember studying that in college thinking, man, there's just no way in hell that's going to work. But now we have the trickle up theory by Biden. So, we're going to give all the poor people money. But I agree sort of with that, because who knows how to spend money better than poor people? So we're going to get this money into the economy.
If you have got severe dementia, you really know how to spend money. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, hey, we're getting ready to do the conspiracy theory. So you could either stick around for that, or we'll.
I drank coffee for dinner, so I'm a little buzzed right now. So I can stick around for a few minutes. What are we going to talk about?
We won't expect a tinfoil hat from you, but that's some of us may have one on here in a second. But I actually have.
Hey, John, I'm going to peel off here. I'm sorry. I'm going to peel off if that's okay with you.
No, that's good. Yeah. I mean, you have an excellent tinfoil hat look too, but
yeah, I do. I can share.
I know you only signed up for 1 hour of this fiasco.
I have an early morning. I have an early morning and a late night.
I got spin class at 5 a.m. Clown. Don't even try it. Don't even try it. I'll be dumpster at noon tomorrow. It'd be terrible. So
I know how you'll carry on for 11:30. If I don't bounce now, I'll be in this till 11:30.
Oh yeah. Well, I got to go turn up my kiln. I'm actually firing a kiln tonight. So
thank you all.
Hey, thanks for stepping in, Charles. And I'm sure you'll be back on again. And thanks a lot. All right. So let's play the intro here to the conspiracy theory, and then we'll be ready to go.
Hey, y'all, it's time for the conspiracy theory. So you better get your tinfoil hat out and let's see what's going on this week.
Okay.
So,
I don't have one of those.
No, you're not expected to have one. And Brad has bunny ears under protest. So hopefully they'll both stay up. Our high budgeted show here.
These are highly requested, apparently. So
yeah, they like them. The cats. Your cat almost got his head stuck in there. That's popular on this show. The cats and all that. Yeah. So here we are. We made it. We did a 2-hour show, and you're still awake.
Well, I discovered the joys of iced coffee in a carton out of the refrigerated section over at the store. And oh my gosh, that stuff is delicious, but I'm going to have to stop because the calories are insane.
All right. Well, we're going to let you lead off conspirafact. So Blair, Lucy, it's not a conspiracy theory. This is conspirafact. So what Lucy says, it's either happened, going to happen, or it's happening. So Lucy, what do you have?
Well, I haven't watched The Simpsons lately, so I have no conspiracy facts to share. But seriously, that is the hardest thing that I have to do every week is figure out what conspiracy fact to share because there are so many things that are going on. So earlier I alluded to the 15-minute cities. They're really just open air prisons. So that's the conspiracy fact that I'm going to go with tonight is that people think that these smart cities are for their benefit. But in reality, they're being sold to you as, convenience. Like your dentist will be within, a 5-minute jaunt, but they don't realize that they're going to get sectioned off and they're not even going to be able to travel to other sections within the same smart city. It's about people control and keeping people from coming together. Just like, one of the things that happened during COVID was the shutting down of bars and coffee shops. Why? Because you don't want people to get together and to start comparing information. Otherwise, they would have seen that people, weren't dropping dead in the streets and that it was, actually made up. But I digress because otherwise I'll start going down on the COVID.
Sorry.
Yeah, on a word that I
My
shouldn't
ears.
say. Yeah, I know, man. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard. So I'm going to shut up about that, but I just want to let you all know that 15-minute cities are coming unless you stop them. Unless you stop them, it's up to you.
It's yeah. Well, I'm prepared. I'm prepared for it. So, so Brad, what do you have? We got a sports thing tonight? What do you got?
No, actually, well, I have a response because like I feel like I've planted myself within a 15-minute city already, like on purpose. Like there's a bar, Quinn's Corner, down the road from my house. I love that place. I can walk to work. There's a grocery store within like a 2-minute walk. So I think that I'm already living in a 15-minute city possibly, and I'm in a Twilight Zone episode then I don't know it. But I digress. My actual conspiracy theory is about Kid Rock. I believe that he bought stock in Modelo before he performed his epic boycott, because in the end it appeared to be a completely BS boycott. He was caught drinking Bud Light, pretty much right away afterwards. It was all for show. I didn't.
He wanted to
understand
run the price down. I mean, you could get it for like $8 for a 20-pack or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. Like, yeah.
Now I saw you had a whiteboard out earlier. I saw Kid Rock's name on there. Was that you working on your conspiracy theory? And that's
once I think of it, like I have to write it down. Otherwise, like lose it. Like I think about it a lot, and I'm like, man, if I don't write it down, I'm not gonna remember it.
I got to come up with something.
Wait till you're my age. If you don't write shit down right away, you're done.
I forgot where I wrote it down.
Hey,
That's my
Blair,
problem.
seriously, let me give you just a tip on that for anybody that's still watching. Lion's mane mushrooms. Lion's mane mushrooms and MCT oil, which MCT oil is just like coconut oil without the coconut taste for those who don't like it. Otherwise, go straight for the coconut oil. It will transform your life to have those two things in your diet.
Okay, so
I
either
want
do
to forget
that
stuff.
or a
Lion's
40-year-old
mane.
girlfriend. Which
You see,
I'm 70 years old, so I take oil or get a 40-year-old girlfriend, which is going to help me more.
Hey, if you get the 40-year-old girlfriend, you better put yourself on some pine pollen. It's
Well,
bioequivalent testosterone, and it'll make everything work better. I promise you.
Or I'll make a trip to Michigan. Right? Yeah, exactly.
What's the pine pollen? All right, pine.
Yeah,
pollen.
pine pollen. My husband is like, "Oh my gosh, you're telling people about pine pollen. You're live on the air." We're still on mouthwash, honey. He's like, "Oh my god."
We don't get Dorn on here.
So my favorite. Now, I'm not an affiliate of any of these places, and neither is Mouthwash, so it's okay for me to say on the air. But my favorite products are from Marcus, Markus, MarcusProducts.com. If you don't know Marcus Rothkrantz, he's 60 years old, just turned 60. He looks 30. It's incredible. His girlfriend owned a raw food restaurant. And, like served all the stars like Woody Harrelson and all that in like San Francisco and Santa Monica. So they're legit. They wrote a cookbook. It's amazing. The most well-researched as far as having NIH studies to back it up comes from LostEmpireHerbs.com. And I'm trying to remember the guy's name that has it. Logan, maybe Logan Christopher is his name. I can't remember. But anyway, he's like an old time strongman. So he does all these cool things. Like he pulled a locomotive with his red hair, like he pulled him. I mean, it's like incredible. And then if you're on a budget, and if you're on a budget, Marcus Rothkrantz is the best bang for your buck. Lost Empire Herbs is pricey, but really, really good stuff. They have something called Thor's Hammer, which has long fat.
I've heard of that.
Yep, it has tonkatali in it, which is very, very popular herb for men. And if you're on a budget, go to greenbush.net. Greenbush.net is one of my favorite places to buy herbs. Everything that I bought from them has been great.
I just take some catnip.
Herbs or Red Corvette. Herbs or Red Corvette. I think the Red Corvette's going to probably make me happier in my life. But hey, I'm up for herbs, right? I love herbs. So
you and me both, brother.
He
but
did the Bill Levin commercial, remember? So hey,
yep.
There's got to be. Did he pay you in herbs?
What time is it? No.
Yeah, I gotta go. Hey, Bill Levin actually lit up a joint on our show, probably about the 6th episode or whatever we had him on, and he just fires it up and like, let's go. So
Bill and I go back to the hippie Broad Ripple days when we were real people were actually hippies and not fake hippies like they are today.
Oh yeah, Bill's he's a character. He's a good guy. Bill's a good guy. So Blair, do you have a conspiracy theory or fact or anything like that you want to throw out there? It's not necessary, but if you got something.
I want to go back to this 15-minute city thing because I lived downtown for 9 years on 9th Street at the Renaissance. And I got to tell you, when I first moved down there, it was a 15-minute city. I could ride my bike anywhere I wanted. There were 50 restaurants within a 15-minute walk. You could go to the Pacers game, Colts game. You had wonderful, Whole Foods. You got all these. My office was at, if you know downtown at all, where the Old Point Tavern was, Dancing Lady. I had the 2nd and 3rd floor of that building. And about 4 years ago, I loved downtown. I just adored it. So my partner comes into work one morning and gets beat up by 2 homeless guys. I come in the next day and there's a guy laying on my doorstep with a knife in his shoulder, and I left. And then I just recently lived downtown. 4 years ago in my condo, there were 2 condos for sale. Now there's 9. Wow. Now, why is that? Well, I used to have to carry a gun to go to the grocery store over at Needler's, okay? Because it's that bad. I get on my little Derringer and get on my bike. So here's what's going to happen to the 15 minutes.
15 minute, yeah.
15 seconds.
What's happening is the tax base is going to start leaving Indianapolis. When the tax base, we're screwed now with the homeless. God bless them, but we're screwed. And we need to do all we can to support them, and it's mental health. And I think this year at the legislature, you're going to see more mental health allocation. I really do. But it got so bad where I had to leave, and it made me cry to shut my office. I had the coolest office in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it was nice.
And you were there, John, right? And it broke my heart to leave it, but the city is, can you imagine when the tax base is gone? When the tax base is gone, it doesn't, because it's no longer the 15-minute city. It's no city at all.
It's a ghost land. Well, I know you're old enough to remember, Blair, how bad it was when Hudnut took over downtown. The old Sears, all that stuff was vacant. And then they revitalized it with the sports bar and Don't Ask and Ike and Jonesy's. And that was, I'm telling you, it was a ghost town. You could, those buildings were empty.
John, those days, if the only reason to come to Mass Avenue was to buy some heroin or a hooker.
Right. I worked at the fruit docks on Mass Ave, but it was gone out.
And look at it now. That's the most prime real estate in the state of Indiana right there.
Yep.
So I like the 15-minute thing. I'm going to remember that. That's pretty cool. As far as my self theories, I want to know where Joe Hogsett was on the night our city was burning down.
You want me to ask him next time I see him? He was pretty pissed at me this weekend. He was. I finally got to him a little bit.
Well, he's not going to answer the question. And quite honestly, I think the majority of the voters don't really give a crap where he was.
I think this is party. I think it's party lines. They're trying to bring other things in that don't matter. The thing, it's all it's all marketing anymore, right? It's like if we could just tell you what you want to believe, then it'll be there.
It
So
all
it's
comes
good. I
down
think
to
it's going to be interesting.
milk. I mean, you know, I think Jim married, even if he'd had 5 million, he couldn't have beaten Joe. So, you know, it's
No,
like
it
Jennifer.
was. They were still going to give him another chance. Are they going to give him a third chance?
Yeah,
And
it's like Joe. It's like Jennifer McCormick. I ran her campaign when she ran for a superintendent, and we won. And then she turned batshit crazy. Now she thinks she's going to be governor, which is wonderful. But where's she going to come up with $15 million to compete with any of the winners? Because right
$10 at a
now,
time.
John, think about this. With the 5 Republican candidates, there will be close to $80 million spent between now and the primary.
It's
$80
gonna
million.
get.
Wait, so
It's
who's gonna win though, Blair? Like, who do you think is gonna win? Like,
Who
the
do I want to
Republican?
win, or who do I think's going to win?
yes and yes.
Yeah, both.
I'm a Susan Crouch fan. Okay. I've known her for a long time. She hasn't been able to come into her own. I think after the trans bill that the governor screwed up, she caught grief for that because she was right there. But we got to remember, Chambers is a lot closer to the governor than she is. She and the governor don't, you know, it's either going to be Mike Braun or Susan Crouch.
You really think
That's
it's between those two?
absolutely.
Like,
I've
and you
seen
don't
some.
think Chambers? Like, you don't?
I've seen the polling numbers. Chambers is going to have to spend $10 million to get his name even close to ID to Braun and Crouch.
Well, you were up at the Hamilton County Fall Dinner, and it just seemed like he was way behind the other candidates. He
He
was.
is the same with Eric Doden. Listen, Eric Doden is a wonderful guy, but come on, running for state office,
But
it's a hard thing. Indiana's a big state.
yeah,
And
but
it's
does Mike Braun Mike Braun does not like exude confidence. Like, I don't know.
This is going to be the battle for the lack of personalities.
Seriously,
Well,
like, I don't know how he wins the state.
oh, I do. It's called having about $700 million in your hip pocket.
That is not fair. I don't know how
Hey,
else to say
life
that.
ain't fair, Brad. I'm sorry.
Okay, well let's look at it. Let's look at it. Victoria Sparks. I'm running Beth Henderson's campaign against Victoria Sparks for the 5th district. I'm up 7 points with 3 weeks to go with Beth Henderson. Sparks comes in, she drops $2 million. Clifford Groves drops $3 million. There's $5 million against my candidate. I lose by 3 points. You've got Jim Baird, multimillionaire. Okay, you've got Victoria Sparks, multimillionaire. You've got Braun,
What about Jim Banks? Like, what do you think? Is Jim Banks just gonna walk in too?
Yeah. He
yeah,
got
he
out in
just-
front. He's got some people running against him. I mean, listen, this Russ guy, I'm sure he's a really nice guy. But he's just another rich kid that says, well, I want to run for office, and I'm just going to spend daddy's money. And I'm sure he's a nice guy, but have you heard him say one thing about policy? He knows nothing about federal policy.
No, but I don't like Mike Braun was in office for what, 6 years or 4? Like, I mean, he hasn't done, like, I don't know what he's done. Like,
well, he got 2 bills, and I can't remember the name of them. He got 2 pretty important employment bills, and being a freshman senator is a hard thing anyway.
Lonely job.
It's almost as worse as being a freshman in the House.
I don't know. He was pretty friendly with the president, so like, I don't see how it was that difficult for him to get anything like.
Well,
I think one of the things he did early on was he went on and did an interview about the police, and I think he'd said misstepped.
Well, okay, let's talk about that for a second. There's 2 things that'll take him that Braun will have issues with. He goes on national television and says, and this is to a Republican, how he supports Black Lives Matter, and this is during the middle of the riots. Number 2, he got on and he didn't think that police should be, there's rules right now where police, they can't be held accountable for certain things because of actions. Well, he thought they should. And then the dude gets on and said he met with the state police or set with the state FOP and the Sheriff's Association.
And he
Guess
didn't.
what? No, he didn't meet with
He
any of
didn't.
them. So
No, that was the one I remember.
they're
Yeah.
going to come after him, but I think he's going to have
That's
so
what I
much.
mean. Like, yeah, I feel like he has a lot of, and so like, I was interested to see like when you talked about Jennifer McCormick, I didn't, I laughed at your synopsis of it, but then I didn't know what you thought then, because she's probably like the Democrat, candidate, right?
Yeah, she is. Why they don't run that? What's her name? She ran. Oh, trying to remember. She's an attorney, Democrat.
Destiny Wells.
Oh man, if the Democrat Party doesn't run her and take advantage, she's a sharp lady, and I don't agree with her, but she's sharp. She's very articulate. She has charisma, and
No, she's the one that lost to Diego Morales, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Secretary of
Like
State.
I cannot. Yeah,
I couldn't believe it either because he's such a
No.
miserable human being and sexual harasser.
I was impressed.
This is
By that lack
how
of-
the politic works. I mean, it's like it's an interesting thing. Well, Blair, I got my conspiracy. So my conspiracy is I never have a good. After you guys do yours, mine's not that good. My conspiracy is that Joe Biden has got Jimmy Carter's playbook verbatim down. Now stick with me here. So think about it. He just did some stuff with Iran that, he traded some hostages. Remember, Carter had all those hostages back then. We have inflation going crazy. Remember the Carter era where we had all that inflation? The oil, we've got problems with the oil, and we had the oil embargo of Jimmy Carter's era. I mean, I was learning I just got my driver's license, and gas was 29 cents a gallon, and it went up to 50. I know. That's how old I am. That's Blair. Blair probably remembers 17 cents. I'm just saying.
How old are you? Yeah, John.
I'm 62 and you're 70, so you probably remember 19 cents gas. I mean, I remember it as a kid, but driving, your first tank probably was 17 cents a gallon. That was before they added tax.
I'm so jealous of
it
that.
was definitely cheap, but it was really shitty gas too. So
yeah, it was. Well, that's what they say. We're the baby boomers. You're the other end of the baby boomer. I'm the lower end, and they said we're the lead paint boomers. That's why we're losing it and all that. So we breathe in all that lead gas.
My
I
idiotic.
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why we're lucky to be alive, Brad. We're just lucky to be alive. We didn't have safety seats in our truck. We didn't even have to wear
seatbelts.
We'd stand up in the back seat when my mom was driving, and it's like we didn't have helmets for our bikes. I mean, it was just child abuse.
We didn't have seatbelts.
Seatbelt, yeah. It was like
ashtrays in the back seats. You had to
ashtray. Yeah, my mom let us smoke when we were 8. I mean, we've got ashtrays we can smoke, but we didn't have. Those cars were boats. I mean, you could friggin' drive through a wall and not even scratch your bumper on those big ass cars. They were huge. But yeah, it was good growing up in the 70s. Nobody really bothered you with things. It's like you just do what you wanted. I don't know how we made it. We lived though.
Right.
All that. So, all right, everybody. Well, hey, this has been the world record show for Mouthwash. We've gone over 2 hours. Lucy stayed awake. We did lose one of our guys because apparently running a Jimmy John's is hard to do. I mean, I could do it in my spare time, but for that's what
I love Jimmy John's. We need to get sandwiches for each of us, like for the show next time or something. Like
I know it. Well, I mean, I gotta beg people I gotta tie a pork chop around my neck to get people to come on this show. I'm gonna tell you, it's tough being me. Ooh, I tell you, it's tough.
We had dinner with Nikki tonight, so we had steak. So I'm just rubbing that.
Just rub it in. All right. Well, hey, Blair, we're going to have to get you back on as the election draws near and get your political insider. It's quite interesting, the stories, and we appreciate you appreciating us. So,
hey, this has been fun. Like I said, I normally I don't do this because I just don't. But I admire how far you've come, John, in the last 5 years. I mean, you're a political personality, that's for sure, within our market. So I think that's pretty cool. And if I can help your wife, please let me know if there's anything I can do. you got my number.
Yeah, I do. I was asking last night at our big rubbing elbows with the Kittles and the Terry Lees and all that last night, and I asked Joel for your number, and he didn't have it, or he didn't want to give it to me. They're I've noticed that the state party's very reluctant to let their people come on this crazy show. But I got to say,
that's going to change. I mean, we've got a new state chair who is the most wonderful human being, and we've got a new state director with Joe Elsner. So I'm looking for some change within the state party. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's a question I have. Do you think that we're going to get a little more, I don't want to say diversity is not the right word, but more inclusive people? Because it seemed like that was sort of a tight knit. Kyle had a tight knit circle there that if you weren't in it, you weren't in it. We ain't in it.
Without getting myself in a deep shit, you're absolutely correct. Okay. Anne Hathaway is, I mean, there's nobody more astute. I mean, she's actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Republican convention this summer in Minneapolis, where I am, go figure that. She's running that. I mean, she's in charge of the whole thing. That's a big deal,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
I know that, we got some people.
Person. So
yeah.
I look for big things.
All right. Well, we appreciate you giving us some love here on the Mouthwash. And so I think I got an ending here with, it's not the right ending. So keep talking. I don't care.
Okay. I'll see you.
Jeremiah T-Ball is going to be on here. And
it was
all
nice.
That, so
it was nice meeting you all. Okay.
All right.
We'll do it
again.
See you,
nice meeting you, Blair.
sometime. Yeah.